Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Radhe Jaya Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Radhe Prabhupada, 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 Jai Prabhupada. Jai Jai Prabhupada, 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 Jai Prabhupada. Thakur ki, Granta. Krishna, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, 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 Hare Hare. Thank you, Jilangai Mataji. Now that we have sound, I'll go ahead and introduce myself again. We've had a couple of speakers, brahmacharis, that I didn't catch their names, and I was really sorry that I didn't, because we've heard some very nice classes. But my name is Rajendranandana. I'm a very insignificant disciple of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. And I have the honor and the privilege to be able to participate in hearing and chanting from the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th chapter, Deliverance of the Yamuna Arjuna Trees. And I was told to give class on text 40, 41, and 42. So, invocational prayers. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Text number 40. Shri Bhagavan Vacha Gyatam Mama Paraivaitad Rishina Karanatmana Yatstri Mandandayor Vagbir Vibramsho Nugraha Krita Shri Bhagavan Vacha Gyatam Mama Paraivaitad Rishina Karanatmana Yatstri Madandayor Vagbir Vibramsho Nugraha Krita Shri Bhagavan Vacha Gyatam Mama Paraivaitad Rishina Karanatmana Yatstri Madandayor Vagbir Vibramsho Nugraha Krita. Shri Bhagavan Vacha Gyatam Mama Paraivaitad Rishina Karanatmana Yatstri Madandayor Vagbir Vibramsho Nugraha Krita. Shri Bhagavan Vacha Gyatam Mama Paraivaitad Rishina Karanatmana Yatstri Madandayor Vagbir Vibramsho Nugraha Krita. Chalangi. Shri Bhagavan Vacha Gyantam Mama Paraivaitad Rishina Karanatmana Yatstri Madandayor Vagbir Vibramsho Nugraha Krita. Shri Bhagavan Vacha. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, Gyatam, everything is known, Mama, to me, Para, in the past, Eva, indeed, Etat, this incident, Krishna, by the great sage Narada, Karana Atmana, because he was very, very kind to you. Yet, which Srimada Andayo, who had become mad after material opulence, and had thus become blind. Vagbi, by words or by cursing. Vibramsha, falling down from the heavenly planet to become Arjuna trees here. Anugraha, Krita, this was a great favor done by him to you. Translation. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, the great Saint Narada Muni is very merciful. By his curse, he showed the greatest favor to both of you who were mad after material opulence and who had thus become blind. Although you fell from the higher planet Swargaloka and became trees, you were most favored by him. I knew all of these incidents from the very beginning. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. It is now confirmed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead that the curse of a devotee is also to be regarded as mercy. As Krishna, God is all good. A Vaishnava is also all good. Whatever he does is good for everyone. This is explained in the following verse. So even though we're going to read the next two verses, I'd like to chant the invocational prayers begging for mercy from Srila Prabhupada and the Acharyas and the Lord. I hope that you will chant along with me and at least say a prayer that we all might be able to enter into the great festival of hearing and chanting Srimad Bhagavatam and please our spiritual masters by doing so. Om Jnanatimirandasya Gnananjana Salakaya Chakshurn Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadandikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shiyata Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karana Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gourange Radhe Vrindavanishwari Vrishabhana Sutta Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nivishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desatarane Vanchakopatrubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Before I go to the next verses, I wanted to share a little nectar with you. If you haven't read the book, it's called Sri Damodar Janani by His Holiness Shivaram Swami. I highly encourage you to do so. It's the telling of these two chapters, the binding of Lord Krishna and the deliverance of the Yamuna trees. And he tells it in story form like Srila Prabhupada does Bhagavatam in the Krishna book. And he quotes from so many different acharyas sharing with us things that we don't hear in the Srimad Bhagavatam. For example, in this verse, the Lord is telling He is telling the two brothers, Nalakuvara and Manigriva, that the great Saint Narada Muni is very merciful. And after he said this, he stopped and he closed his eyes, and his eyes filled with tears because he was thinking, Narada Muni is such a wonderful devotee, such a wonderful servant of mine. He is selflessly going throughout the universe and sharing Krishna consciousness to any and all. He doesn't discriminate who is fit and who is unfit. He simply wants to give my devotional service to others. And thinking in great love of his devotee Narada Muni, his eyes filled with tears, and the two brothers seeing Krishna becoming overwhelmed with love for Narada Muni, their own appreciation of the devotee who saved them, who delivered them from the great ignorance that they were in previously in the heavenly planets. And they also begin to tear up. So, one other point in this verse is that Krishna says, I knew from the very beginning what was taking place. And he said, you're so very fortunate. Not that you were simply cursed by Narada Muni. And in the purport, Srila Prabhupada saying, the curse, it's just as good as the blessing when it's coming from the Mahabhagavat like Narada Muni. It's coming from love. It's coming from the mood of, I simply want to help this conditioned soul. And he said, I knew all about this. And he even began to speak the first verse, it's text number 8, to the brothers, so they were able to understand, as Lord of the heart, he was there, he was present, he was fully aware of everything that had taken place. And of course, the two brothers were like amazed at this wonderful ability of Lord Krishna. As he says in the Bhagavad Gita, past, present, and future I know all living entities, but hardly anyone knows me. Or earlier in the Bhagavad Gita, in the 4th chapter, he tells Arjuna, many, many births both you and I have taken, but I remember all of them, whereas you do not. So in this connection, because he was fully present and fully aware of what was taking place in Narada Muni's benedicting the sons by taking them away from their opulence and their aristocratic family and the pride that had come from these things, when he was taking them out of them, because Krishna was aware of this, it's interesting to note that Sanatana Goswami says that it is Krishna's mercy that all of this took place. And in commenting on the devotees, Nalakuvara and Manigriva, praying to the Lord, we remember that they were praying to Krishna saying, you're everything. You're the cause of everything. And as such, we can say that Krishna desired the deliverance of Nalakuvara and Manigriva. And one might ask, wait a second. Because Krishna also says in one verse, I wouldn't have gotten involved. You had no bhakti for me. You had the good fortune of having some association with Lord Shiva. You had the great fortune of meeting Narada Muni, and we're going to expand on that after the next 2 verses. But actually, you were just wandering in your own way, trying to enjoy separate from me, not thinking of me, not giving the time of day, even when I come before you as my servant, as my devotee, Narada Muni. So I wouldn't have intervened and given you mercy. I would have let your karma play out. So we have a couple of what appears to be opposing perspectives on the deliverance of these 2 brothers. And we'll get into that in a little bit. I think I'll stop there and chant the next verse and read Srila Prabhupada's wonderful purport. This is text 41. Sadhunam samachitanam sutaramat kritatmanam darshanan na bhaved banda pumsam shno savatur yata. Translation, Krishna speaking, when one is face to face with the sun, there's no longer darkness for one's eyes. Similarly, when one is face to face with a sadhu, a devotee who's fully determined and surrendered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one will no longer be subject to the material bondage. Purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. As stated by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila 2254, Sadhu Sangha Sarva Shastra Kai, Lavamatra Sadhu Sangha Sarva Siddha Hoy. If by chance one meets a sadhu, a devotee, one's life is immediately successful and one is freed from material bondage. It may be argued that whereas someone may receive a sadhu with great respect, someone else may not receive a sadhu with such respect. A sadhu, however, is always equiposed towards everyone. Because of being a pure devotee, a sadhu is always ready to deliver Krishna consciousness without discrimination. As soon as one sees a sadhu, one naturally becomes free. Nonetheless, persons who are too much offensive, who commit Vaishnava aparads or offenses to a sadhu, will have to take some time before being rectified. This is also indicated herein. Now, I had the good fortune of hearing Pankajangri Prabhu speak on this verse. And of course, the thing that stands out, there's a couple of things, but something that stands out is it's saying simply by meeting a devotee, simply by seeing a devotee, lava matra, for 1/11 of a second, one's bondage in this material world is destroyed. And one might think, wow, that's a pretty big claim. How is that possible? Is it exaggeration? Or, it doesn't say when you'll be delivered from material existence. This comes up also as discussing it, and that has validity to it. But we're discussing about Narada Muni in this particular application, blessing the sons of Kuvera. And he gave them the body of trees for 3,600 earthly years. But not just some ordinary trees in dull ignorance. We know they had remembrance and awareness of what they had done to be put in this situation. But they are also in Sridham Vrindavan. And his blessing was, after 100 years of time out, go to the corner and think about what you've done. You'll get to see Lord Krishna, and he will deliver you. And for deliverance, when we talk about deliverance for the Vaishnavas, Narada Muni's not trying to give liberation from this material world. He certainly doesn't have any desire to reward you with the fruits of, Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. Let's see if I can find that verse. He simply wants everyone to reawaken their love for Krishna. And there's a verse from the first canto, Srimad Bhagavatam. I imagine you know this, Maharaj. The value of a moment's association with the devotee of the Lord cannot be compared even to the attainment of the heavenly planets or liberation from matter. And what to speak of worldly benedictions in the form of material prosperity, which is for those who are meant for death. That's Bhagavatam 1:18-13. So Narada Muni, he's wanting their Krishna consciousness, their Krishna prem to be awakened. Such a rare, rare gift. And there's some qualification when it says sadhu, by a moment's association of a sadhu. The first line, it talks about sama chittanam, where one is equiposed, where one doesn't hanker or lament. And there are those who are liberated. Manushanam sahasrashu kaschit yatati siddhye. There's not that many in the planet that are liberated, but there are those who are self-realized, and they are equiposed in that way. And our acharyas say, if you get the association of such a liberated soul, your bondage to material existence will be slackened, but it will not be completely destroyed. But when you get the association of a devotee who is matkrita atmanam, fully surrendered, determined to render service unto me, unto Krishna, whose mind, whose words, whose activities are completely dedicated in love and service to Krishna, then one's material existence is immediately destroyed. Now, in this world, time and space are something that impact the conditioned consciousness of the living entity, or the laws of nature can act on this material body made of matter, gross and subtle, the mind also, intelligence, false ego. The laws of nature can act upon them, time and space. But when we're talking about the living entity, and when we're talking about a Mahabhagavata, lover of Krishna, blessing such a conditioned soul to become free of the ignorance of this world and all the suffering that comes with that ignorance, then that can immediately be eradicated. And we may say only time is separating the soul from reaping the benefit of that. Now, how much time, to some extent, depends upon the person getting the benediction. If they're offensive, like the two brothers were, they had to wait 100 years of the demigods before they would get the fruit of the blessing of Narada Muni, the real ripened fruit of Krishna praying. But 100 years of the demigods, what is that in terms of waiting to get that which we have been looking for in all the wrong places and all the wrong activities and all the wrong people? 100 years of the demigods is nothing to be reawakened in our love for the Lord and become qualified to eternally serve Him. What to speak? Srila Prabhupada, who is on the same level of surrender and devotion to Lord Sri Krishna, Radha Madhava, Shishi Gaur Nitai. When he gives a benediction of his instructions, of his blessing of praying to Krishna, please deliver these boys and girls. He says, if you will accept the shelter of my instructions, if you will follow them, then I promise that at the end of this life, you will go back home, back to Godhead. We all know the conditions of the contract. Most of us listening to this class, we're following the regulative principles and chanting minimum 16 rounds a day. What to speak of in lockdown, I'm sure many of you have increased your hearing and chanting in terms of numbers of rounds and study of scripture. It's so wonderful you're giving a seminar, nectar of instruction. You two Prabhus are reading from Krishna book, etc. I mean, it's wonderful the way the nectar is being churned, because we're hearing that the qualification of Narada Muni is that his mind is absorbed in Krishna. When you come to know who Krishna is by hearing from those who possess Krishna, then how can you not reawaken in your love for Krishna? What's there not to like about Krishna? Everyone is attracted to Krishna. Thus his name, Krishna. All attractive. These pastimes that we're hearing of the deliverance of the Yamala Arjuna trees, this doesn't take place in the spiritual world. It's a pastime here in Gokula Vrindavan. This pastime of Damodar Leela, it doesn't happen in the spiritual world. This is Komara Leela. Krishna, he's still a little chubby. His thighs are a little chubby. His speech isn't fully developed. It's described how his hair curls around his eyes like the feather of a crow. His lotus eyes, he doesn't have all his teeth, etc. He's not yet grabbed the flute and began bewildering and enchanting the inhabitants of Vrindavan. He's a little boy, and he's being tied up and bound by his mother. When we hear these things, this is so special that the Lord would descend to taste these pastimes, to share the mercy in so many ways. The mood is there, the relationship is there in the spiritual worlds of Mother Yasoda with Krishna. She always thinks of him as her little child. Nanda Maharaj in the same way, completely dependent upon them. They protect him, they feed him, they chide him or correct him, chastise him. but it doesn't manifest in this wonderful way in which it can in this manifest eternal leelas of the Lord in Gokula Vrindavan. So for us to be able to hear these pastimes, we're so very fortunate. And when we hear them from the mouths of the pure devotees, the lovers of Krishna, the effect is complete. It is perfect. Srila Prabhupada says this simple process of Krishna consciousness is perfect in that simply by taking advantage of it, one will develop their love for Krishna. Jananivas Prabhu, I think I heard him correctly. I've asked Antardweep Prabhu that when it comes times to question and answers, let's not have the speaker repeat the questions. Why can't we give the microphone to you? Because there is something a lot often lost in the repetition of what was said or what was asked. But I believe I heard him refer to the saffron-colored dust particles from the lotus feet of Krishna. So the devotees who have taken full shelter of Krishna's lotus feet, who have them placed within their heart, captured those lotus feet of the Lord, when they speak, they are speaking directly as the representative of Krishna. The dust of Krishna's lotus feet is coming through the transcendental sound vibration of such devotees. It's not the speech of this world. As Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur one time said, I'm not speaking English. I'm not speaking Bengali. I'm speaking the transcendental glorification of the Lord. This transcendental glorification of the Lord is non-different from Krishna. It's not of this world. It transcends this world. And that's why when one simply meets or simply sees such an exalted Vaishnava or Vaishnavi, then immediately the glue that binds him to this material world is gone. Immediately. Because it's as if, you might remember from your school, did anybody have a science project where you made the volcano and they have some kind of chemical inside, and when you put the water in it, immediately there's this explosion and this lava comes flowing out of the volcano? I forget what the chemical was that always happens. You add water to it, it explodes. Anyone who gets the association of the Mahabhagavats, their material life is finished. It's just a matter of time. How is that possible? We've just said because they're empowered by Krishna, they're speaking, they're representing Krishna. In fact, when you talk about such exalted Vaishnavas, Guru Tattva, it all is the manifestation of Krishna's desire to bring us back home, back to Godhead. And Lord Krishna, in speaking with the two brothers, one of the acharyas say, they elaborate on it, it's not simply the curse that delivered you, it was the transcendental knowledge that he instructed you in. Many verses he said, you're fools, you're so proud. Of what? Wealth comes and goes? You're proud, you think you're happy, enjoying, intoxicated, dallying with young girls? That you're something special because your son's a Kavera? Well, how long did that last? How much real shelter and pleasure did you find in that body, in those activities? No. But he gave the transcendental instructions whereby when they meditated upon those instructions as, entrapped in the trees, then they fully got it. They understood, of course, there's no benefit in having a demigod's life. There's no benefit of anything in this material world except and save the service of Lord Krishna. That's the potency of hearing of such a exalted devotee. And if one's heart is fertile, it took some time for them to really get it. But you also have to remember, they were in Vrindavan. Srila Prabhupada, Sanatana Goswami in Brihad Bhagavatam Rita says, the Dham is so helpful in by performing sadhana bhakti in the holy Dham of the Lord. It is very advantageous for achieving and reawakening love for Krishna. Just service to the Dham, just being in the Dham, it is so advantageous to reawakening our love for Krishna. And they were there for 36,000 years approximately, if they did the full 100 years. And then they also saw Krishna with his activities. They've heard the transcendental knowledge, and they're getting with their own eyes, their own consciousness to see Krishna kill Putana. Krishna killing Sakata Sura in the cart. Krishna killing the Trinavarta demon. They're seeing with their own consciousness and appreciating, and they're in the association of the Vrajvasis. In the association of these exalted, the most exalted devotees, Krishna consciousness explodes. It reawakens within the heart. Rupa Goswami talks about taking the association of devotees, and he gives 3 suggestions. One should associate with like-minded devotees. One should associate with affectionate devotees, and one should associate with more advanced devotees. Now, for one to become a servant and a lover of Krishna, you have to get the mercy of, you have to take the service of the Vrajvasis themselves. If you don't get their mercy, or the mercy from the line descending from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu who's giving Vraja Bhakti, then you'll never get it. The majority of conditioned souls going back to Godhead are receiving Vaikuntha Bhakti. In one sense, conditioned love of God, because they love God, Vishnu, because he is God. The Vrajvasis, that's not their excuse. They love Krishna because he's Krishna, because he's all attractive, because the love in which he reciprocates with them, the loving activities he shares with them, it's the complete perfection of their life. It's ever increasing, that unlimited happiness. There is nothing anywhere else in the material worlds or spiritual worlds, Vaikuntha, Ayodhya, or Dwarka, that compares to this Vraja Bhakti. And Narada Muni has blessed them to receive it. Inconceivable. Now, before I get on too much, I got to read the next verse, and then we'll continue. Tadgachitam mat paramau nalakuvara sadhanam sanjatu mai bhavovam ipsita paramo bhava. Translation: O Nalakuvara and Manigriva, now you may both return home. Since you desire to be always absorbed in my devotional service, your desire to develop love and affection for me will be fulfilled. And now you will never fall from that platform. Purport: the highest perfection of life is to come to the platform of devotional service and always engage in devotional activities. Understanding this, Nalakuvara and Manigriva desired to attain that platform, and the Supreme Personality of Godhead blessed them with the fulfillment of their transcendental desire. It's interesting. Well, I'm going to get back to the point that the thread of thought that it was. So Narada Muni blessed them in that way. Now, stop and think. I want to explore some of this territory of the mercy of Krishna and the devotees. Guru Krishna Prasadi Pai Bhakti Lata Bij. One time Shireshwara Prabhu, he asked Gopi Parandana Prabhu, would you please tell me, according to the Satsandarbhas or Jiva Goswami, who specifically delivers the living entity? Who is it? And he said, you can read all of the Sandarbhas, and Jiva Goswami doesn't pinpoint it to one particular person. What are you saying, Rajendranandana? What is being explained is that Krishna desires the deliverance of all of us conditioned souls. He desires that we come back home, back to him. And as such, that's the purpose of this material creation. Go try to be happy separate from me and then reawaken to that doesn't work. Re-embrace your eternal identity and activity. You're my servant and will eternally engage in loving reciprocations. You in service to me, and I in rewarding you and pleasing you, blessing you. So all of the energies of Krishna, all the devotees of Krishna, they know what Krishna wants. And their entire life is simply meant to try and fulfill Krishna's desires. So those Mahabhagavats who are traversing the planet, like Srila Prabhupada, he traversed the world 14 times, they say. It would be amazing to have the statistic. How many times has Narada Muni traversed the material universe? Because he's constantly traveling and preaching Krishna consciousness. Srila Prabhupada one time said he's the greatest spiritual master or the greatest preacher. He's made devotees in the animal species and the uncivilized species up to the kings of kingdoms, rulers of planets, etc. Incredible, this empowerment of Narada Muni. He knows what Krishna wants. And so in that sense, Narada Muni is the external manifestation of Krishna saving the living entities. Uddhava in the 11th canto of Bhagavatam glorifies Krishna. He says, Krishna, transcendental sages and poets, even if endowed with a lifetime of Brahma, could not properly express their gratitude to you. Why? Because you appear internally as a super soul and externally as the spiritual master to deliver the conditioned souls of this world. So it's a complete package. We sometimes in our institution focus on the Diksha Guru. We've done that in the past in an imbalanced way. But in a sense, did Narada Muni initiate Nalakuvera and Manigriva? Not according to the standards that we practice in ISKCON. There was no name. He didn't rename them. I don't even know if he gave them a mantra. It's not written. I didn't read it in any commentaries. He just said, you're cursed to take birth as trees and go to Vrindavan and wait for the blessings of the Lord. There you will reawaken. You'll receive the gift of Krishna praying. So what took place there? Was he a Diksha Guru or not? They accept him as their Guru. So what does it mean, Guru and Diksha? Diksha means the giving of transcendental knowledge from the bhakta to the heart of the disciple. Transcendental knowledge, the words of Krishna, the instructions of service to Krishna. And by doing so, all of one's sins are destroyed. Now, Nalakuvera and Manigriva, they weren't sinful. They were demigods, enjoying as demigods do, but they were proud, and their pride preceded their fall. They committed Vaishnava aparad to Narada Muni. They disrespected him. They neglected him. So because of that, they had to be punished. They had to, snap out of it. They had to be rectified. And so they were given the birth of trees. So transcendental knowledge was definitely given to them. This is what Diksha means. It's not the initiation ceremony. It's not the fire sacrifice in and of itself. It's the transference. Like when Lord Chaitanya appeared in the heart of Jagannath Mishra, he transferred into the heart of Mother Sachi. Same way with Vasudeva and Mother Devaki. It's explained from the heart of the father into the heart of the mother. The transcendental Lord was placed into the heart of the recipient. So this is what takes place. And so the Chaitanya Charitamrita explains that Krishna appears externally as Guru. And as Guru, we don't just simply mean Diksha Guru, we mean Siksha Guru also. And sometimes, this is an interesting thought, Sometimes some devotees will think, oh, you have to be a Mahabhagavata to fulfill that responsibility of service as a spiritual master. But no, not at all. And sometimes it's said, but the spiritual master, Prabhupada says, can only give you what he has. In fact, the acharyas, when talking about the sun, the example of the sun rising and one being able to see clearly, the example is you can actually see before the sun rises. When it's just pre-sunrise, you can see. But that's not the full perception of sight. Everything becomes crystal clear when the sun arises above the horizon. And the analogy is there that one who has lesser realization, then he can give what he has. But we're seeing here, Narada Muni simply had the desire for those living entities, and it was Krishna who fulfilled the blessing that Narada Muni had given them. Krishna blessed them with his love and his devotional service. And it's also interesting to note that Krishna, according to the acharyas, at one point when he was ready to bless them, that now you will have my eternal love, the love you desire, the devotional service you desire. He was thinking within himself, and he even, according to the description in Shivaram Swami Maharaj's book, that Krishna said, actually it's gratuitous of you to ask me for pure devotional service because Narada Muni's already blessed you. Now I looked up the word gratuitous. For someone who's not so learned, gratuitous means uncalled for. Or other synonyms that relate to what we're talking about. It's unwarranted. It's needless. It's unnecessary. It's non-essential. Krishna was thinking, I'm bound up here by the ropes of my mother, and you're asking me for deliverance? And he was smiling. He actually laughed at that point. He saw the great humor in it. You're praising me as the supreme unlimited who can give liberation. And here I am. I'm tied up by my mother's ropes. But he also thought, in his own humility, everything comes from the Lord. But he thought, my devotees already blessed you. You don't need my blessings. It's so amazing to see the reciprocation of the Lord in his devotees. The devotee never takes credit for any service that is performed and the blessings that get transferred to others in the preaching or sharing of Krishna consciousness. No, they pass it on to their own spiritual master. They think themselves quite unfit. They never consider the disciple their own property. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur says a guru thinks that the disciple is his, is not guru, he's goru. He's a cow. Or another meaning of guru is heavy. He's not guru, heavy, he's laglu. He's light, he's superficial. He has an immature, incorrect understanding. The guru is simply the servant who's part of the team, beginning with Adi Guru, Lord Balaram or Lord Nityananda in the service of the Lord. Let's give the Lord's devotional service to everyone. It's a team effort. And they all contribute to the deliverance of the disciple. There was one, Chaitanya Charna, he shared with me. He shared on Facebook with a lot of people, but I called up and wanted to get the exact quote. A nice example illustrating this. On Ram Navami 2002, he approached his spiritual master in the mood where Ramachandra says, if one simply surrenders his life to me, then from henceforward, that devotee is mine and I will eternally protect him. So in that mood, he was thinking, I'm going to go and tell my spiritual master, I give my life to you. And he said, Guru Maharaj, I am yours. And it was such a wonderful reply that Bhakti Chaitanya Swami gave. He said, I'm not so sure about that. Srila Prabhupada's and Krishna's maybe. He said, I am yours. And Bhakti Chaitanya Swami said, I'm not so sure about that. Maybe, to elaborate so you get it, maybe you're Srila Prabhupada's and Krishna's, In other words, he wasn't claiming, this is my disciple. He wasn't thinking, I am delivering this soul who's taking shelter of me. No bona fide spiritual thinks in that way. He prays to his own spiritual master, please accept these students. Perfect example is in 1968 when Srila Prabhupada left San Francisco and came back to India thinking he might actually leave this world. His heart was so weak. And he prayed to Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur in the temple. He said, these boys and girls, they're not trained up. They have so many shortcomings. But this is your mission and these are your students. Please protect them and take care of them. And another time, that's when he gave his disciples in the charge of his spiritual master. And then another time, it's another example of how the complete package, when he installed the deities in Melbourne. And this was very early in the 70s, like 72, I believe. Radha Krishna worship, very exalted. And these boys and girls, what did they know? They knew so very little. God dang, I doubt if they knew 25% of what you two teach in the Deity Academy. They knew nothing. But they wanted to please Krishna. That was the other part of him telling Bhaktisiddhanta. But they're enthusiastic. They know nothing, they're not trained, but they're enthusiastic to please. And in the same way, he prayed to Krishna, Radha and Krishna, my dear lords, I'm leaving you in the hands of these neophyte, untrained devotees. Please give them the intelligence. Please inspire them in your service. So that's the mood of the bona fide representative of Krishna, the servant who takes on the service of guiding others to the devotional service of Krishna. And remember when I brought up the point about he didn't even really initiate them as we often would see with our rubber eyeballs in our conception, incomplete conception of initiation. I wanted to mention this for one of my friends who might be watching. In one sense, it's an apology. And I think you'll understand why. Two friends of mine, they had the good fortune of traveling with Srila Prabhupada city to city in their van when he was in America for some time. They were hippies, and they were attracted to Srila Prabhupada. They were attracted to the chanting of Hare Krishna, to taking prasadam, associating with devotees. They took care of Lord Jagannath for decades in their home. She still does. And the last time that I visited them, I was thinking of the injunction that if one is not initiated, then the Lord does not accept one's devotional service, and one cannot go back to Godhead. And that was the last thing that I wanted of my two friends, Ron and Lucille, that they not be given that golden opportunity. And I shared that with them and actually got kind of heavy with them. That was some years back. And now, by the Lord's mercy and my spiritual master's kindness, I understand a little bit more about how the mercy of the Lord and his devotees does not simply fit into a little box that we intelligently and comfortably can control. The mercy of the spiritual master is just like the mercy of Lord Nityananda. It's unlimited. And as I've shared, Diksha truly means when you receive transcendental knowledge and you act upon it. It's a gift by the spiritual master. And my friend Ron, he left in a car accident. But before he lost consciousness, Lucille was there with him. And she was chanting, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, which is the perfection of life when one is being given the final exam. And as Janavas Prabhu has always said, one has to walk through the door himself to go back home to Godhead. You have to have the desire. It has to be really not simply your own, your topmost desire, but you have to come to the realization that I want nothing but the service of the Lord and his devotees. And my uninitiated friend, I know he wanted to please Srila Prabhupada and acted in such a way to do so for many years. Never initiated, but we could give several examples of people that Srila Prabhupada blessed with the remembrance of the holy names, or devotees saying how Srila Prabhupada came to take them back to Godhead, people who weren't initiated, people who weren't even devotees in ISKCON, relatives of devotees in ISKCON, etc. My point is, the Lord is unlimitedly merciful, and everything of this world is geared towards helping the conditioned souls get out of it. We're saying the prayer that people are suffering. They're suffering terribly. And that's Krishna's kindness upon them. I wanted to just throw in that one pastime of Haridas Thakur. When he was arrested by the Muslim king and he went into the prison, there were gentlemen in the prison who knew, oh, Haridas Thakur, he's a great saint. Let's get his audience. Let's go and get his blessings. You know what blessing he gave them when they came into his presence? He gave a big smile, mercifully smiled to them. And then he said, stay here. Stay as you are now. And the prisoner's just like, why would you bless us to remain in prison? What kind of blessing is that? And he said, no, you've misunderstood my blessing. My blessing is never inauspicious. He said, carefully try to understand what I've given you. As your minds are presently fixed on Krishna, let them stay that way forever. Now you can all together constantly chant the names of Krishna and think of Krishna. Here you have no envy or trouble from others, so you can humbly chant and think of Krishna. Otherwise, if you again return to material enjoyment, by bad association, you'll forget everything about Krishna. One cannot achieve love for Krishna as long as he's engaged in sense gratification. You should know for certain that Krishna is far away from such persons. And he continues on. But the point was, they thought the blessing was a curse to begin with, but the devotees are unlimitedly merciful. And the whole material world is geared to help us get out of here. What to speak of the blessings of Guru, Param Guru. I don't know the Sanskrit terms as you go on up the disciplic succession. But they're all here to give us their mercy, including Vrindavan Das Thakur. It's his disappearance day. The best and quickest way that I can glorify him is repeating the words of Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. From Adi Lila chapter 8, he says, "O fools, just read Chaitanya Mangala. By reading this book, one can understand all the glories of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. As Vyasadeva has compiled all the pastimes of Lord Krishna in Srimad Bhagavatam, Thakur Vrindavan Das has depicted the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya. Thakur Vrindavan Das has composed Sri Chaitanya Mangala. Hearing this book annihilates all misfortune. By reading Sri Chaitanya Mangala, which we know later became known as Chaitanya Bhagavat, one can understand all the glories and truths of Lord Chaitanya Nityananda and come to the ultimate conclusion of devotional service. If even a great atheist hears Sri Chaitanya Mangala, immediately becomes a great devotee. The subject matter of this book is so sublime that it appears that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has personally spoken through the writings of Sri Vrindavan Das Thakur. I offer millions of obeisances into the lotus feet of Vrindavan Das Thakur. No one else could write such a wonderful book for the deliverance of all the conditioned souls." Vrindavan Das Thakur never even met Lord Chaitanya. He never got the Vapu association. He was a disciple of Lord Nityananda, He heard pastimes of Lord Chaitanya from other devotees, and being given the mercy of his spiritual master, the full imports of the Vedas are revealed from within the heart. And everyone who writes transcendental literature, if it is indeed transcendental literature, they will always tell you, I didn't write this. I became an instrument for which the transcendental glorification could come through. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, in the end of his preface, says, Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat is the first half of Lord Chaitanya's pastimes. Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita is the second half. We request all readers to attentively and impartially study the Chaitanya Bhagavat, and after completing it, they will certainly be eager to hear and chant the topics of Lord Chaitanya glorified by Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. By this process, a living entity will certainly achieve spiritual perfection. This is the request of this fallen soul. Akinchana Sri Siddhanta Saraswati, on Ekadashi, June 5th, 1932. So it's a complete package to hear from the lovers of Krishna is the topmost benediction. It wasn't simply the curse, it was the instructions of Narada Muni that delivered them. Just like one time, one godbrother of Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, went to America and was preaching that the Mayavadis, Prakashananda Saraswati and his followers, 10,000, 40,000 disciples, they were delivered because he sat down and he exhibited his effulgence. Prabhupada said, what is that? That attracted him, but what are you saying that delivered them? No, he preached to them. It's the transcendental sound vibration, the transcendental instructions of the science of devotional service that delivered them. Similarly, it's the Vani, that is the divine grace of Srila Prabhupada and all the previous acharyas and the followers of Srila Prabhupada. Who and what delivers the conditioned souls? It's their Diksha Guru, it's all their Siksha Gurus, it's the chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, it's the hearing of the transcendental glorification of the Lord in the pages of Srimad Bhagavatam and other Bhakti Shastras. It is the Sangha of our Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis. Prabhupada has given us the International Society for Krishna Consciousness so that we will have association. And right now the Lord is stretching the heart muscles. We're not able to have each other's physical association. And it's heartbreaking, but it's Krishna's kindness upon us. In fact, if I can interpolate from Krishna being glorified by the acharyas, that when he left the Rasa Leela, the service offered by the gopis in Vrindavan, when he left the Rasa Leela and they were running around like mad women, completely devastated in separation from Krishna, it's not that Krishna didn't feel the same separation. But out of love, he wanted them to grow more and become more and more focused and more intent in their love for him. And so he was willing to undergo the same separation. So for those of us, those of you who aren't getting the darshan of the deities, I know they are doing it. It is their desire. It is their sanction that these things are going on, that we're not having the big kirtans, hundreds of devotees in our temple, etc. It's like a ghost town in the temple practically. But they are missing you also. That was an overwhelming impression I had this morning having their darshan. But it's for our upliftment and our purification. And if we embrace it, we will become absorbed in hearing and chanting of their glories. And when we get reunited, it will be that much more wonderful. So are there any questions or comments at this time? Could we have the microphone, or how is it working? If there's any questions. Is this it? I'll get up and get it if need be. Yeah. I told Antardeep Prabhu that we're losing a lot of it on the internet when you don't speak into the microphones. Thank you, Prabhu. I have my plan and Krishna has his. Yes, please. I tell you, every day when I hear the questions of our Chinese-speaking family members, I'm amazed at the wonderful questions that get asked. How is the devotee more powerful than even Krishna? But Srila Prabhupada explains, it's not that the devotee has become more powerful than Krishna. The devotee is the devotee, the servant, and Krishna is the master. The devotee is tiny, and the Krishna is unlimited. But their love for him, that is much more powerful than Krishna. It's not the ropes that are binding Krishna to this mortar as he's blessing them. Please take this Vraja Bhakti, take my Krishna Prem. It's the love of Mother Yasoda that's bound him. And that love comes from the Vrajvasis. They have it, they can give it. The question. Are you asking this or is someone here? Okay. The question was Vani and Vapu. Sometimes we think that Vani's not as powerful as Vapu. Now I'm going to relate with that statement. First of all, it's not correct. Vani is most important. I said in the class, that is the divine grace of the spiritual masters. The transcendental instructions in devotional service, the glorification of Krishna. That is most important. That's what's reawakening our love. Having said that, let me personally express that there was a time when I felt exactly as what this Prabhu is saying. In 1976 in Rath Yatra, Srila Prabhupada was in New York. I had the wonderful good fortune to be there. And Srila Prabhupada's health was not so good. It was deteriorating. His public lecture at Washington Square Park was very short, very punctuated. And I at that time could realize, wow, Srila Prabhupada's not going to spend as much time in America traveling as he had previously. I just had this overwhelming premonition and developed a strong desire to get to India as quickly as I could. And by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, I got to come here in Mayapur in 1977. He didn't give that many classes, but we had his association. And then I went to Vrindavan, took up service there. And Srila Prabhupada came there in April, if I'm not mistaken, from Rishikesh. And he spent the next few months of his manifest pastimes in there. And I will tell you with complete conviction that I imagine if I had not had that association, of my spiritual master, the Vapu association, that I probably wouldn't be a devotee. I didn't have enough love for him. I wasn't surrendered enough to him. But the Vapu always means the Vani. Seeing him is one thing, and you just seeing him, just a breeze passing on the body of Nityananda can make one reawaken in Krishna consciousness. Just the desire of the Bhagavad can give one love of Godhead. But it's the Vani that especially ignites that descending from the, as these Prabhus have shared with me, the teachings of Bhakti Vinod Thakur, the Ladani potency, the Chit potency descending through the transcendental sound vibration reunites with that tiny insignificant Chit and Ladani potency within our heart as jivas. And when it's united, then love of Godhead can manifest. It's the Vani. And the Vapu is so short. They had, how long did they have the company of Narada Muni? Long enough to speak a few verses, curse them, and boom, fall down from heaven to Vrindavan. But they had his Vani forever. They had Vrindavan within their heart when they left Vrindavan. This is one last thing I'll say. I didn't get to throw it in class. One of the things not recorded in Srimad Bhagavatam, but they had the desire that one, Krishna come to the heavenly planets. They're going back there. Boy, it'd be wonderful if he came. But they realized Krishna, he wouldn't be comfortable in the heavenly planets. He's comfortable at this stage, Kumara Lila, Damodar Lila, in the courtyard of Mother Yasoda and Nanda Maharaj. He wouldn't be Krishna. It wouldn't be the same. And secondly, they had a desire to reawaken their Vraja Bhakti in the mood of the friends of Krishna. And that's where Krishna said, oh, that's a very rare desire, that you be given such a relationship of service to me. But he said, because Narada Muni has blessed you and desired that you be reawakened in your love, I fulfill your desire. So when they left Vrindavan, their hearts never left. When they went to the heavenly planets, they simply engaged in hearing, chanting, and glorifying, remembering Vrindavan, the Vrajvasis, and Krishna. And in that Sankirtan, they made other devotees. And they associated with any like-minded devotees who would be attracted. And then they, along with others, would go back to Vrindavan from there. Any other questions or comments? I'll tell you, it seems like this is really practice of Srila Prabhupada saying, preach to the four walls. I have exalted association here. I could count you on my fingers of one hand, and I'm grateful to be given the opportunity. It's very purifying to meditate on these pastimes and try to be an instrument to represent them properly. Very purifying. And we could. Thank you, Maharaj. Mm. This is what I miss. I usually can kind of hear. I put Bose head speakers on. I crank it up as loud as I can to try and hear the speaker. When Maharaj is speaking, there's the twinkle in his eye and the smile as he's churning the nectar. Wait a minute, you said it wasn't the curse. It was the transcendental knowledge, but they were drunk. They were intoxicated. They were totally self-absorbed. How could they appreciate the preaching? Did I get that pretty concisely? So it's true, Maharaj. Sometimes the instructions of the spiritual master and the devotees are like time bombs. Certainly the books have been stated to be such. It's the same with the spoken words. When they were drunk, enjoying, thinking they were enjoying, they couldn't appreciate, but they had the recollection by the blessings of Narada Muni, so they could meditate on it. What else were they going to meditate? For all those years when Krishna Lila wasn't manifest. It was the forest in Vrindavan. What was going on? It was the forest. They had those instructions to meditate on. So although it didn't have immediate impact, it purified their consciousness. And the acharyas, I'm repeating what Shivaram Swami has said in his book, so it's from the acharyas who differentiate. I always say the word improperly, but I think you'll understand. They differentiate. He differentiates between the curse and the instructions. The curse was necessary for them to stop, to sober up, and to appreciate the instructions, and then the transcendental knowledge could have its gradual purifying effect upon their heart. Does that make sense? Sometimes Chatura, she'll say like that. She'll, they may not appreciate what I'm saying now, but at least they'll hear it. And it's that way with Srila Prabhupada and so many Leelas. People say, he said something, I didn't get it at the time, but later on I had realization, oh, this is what he meant. So the transcendental sound vibration is eternal, and the effect is eternally purifying, ever expanding in terms of bringing us to devotional service. Would you like to contribute anything else, Maharaj? Janani Vas Prabhu? Pankajangri Prabhu? How come the Russians never speak forward? Don't you have? She's got her act together here. Do you have the ability to take instructions? Well, you don't usually do the service, so don't mind me. I love the Russian-speaking devotees, having their association somewhat. But anyway, thank you for your attention. Thank you for your association. Thank you, Srila Prabhupada. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki. Srila Prabhupada ki. Samaveda Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki. Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur ki. Gaur Premanandi. Hare Krishna.